And so we settle in. You can feel your body beginning to grow heavy in the most pleasant way. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understudy, the gentle rhythm of a story, the story of a strange and sleepy sickness, a fever that could only be broken by dance. Before we drift too far, if you feel a connection to this place, you're welcome to leave a quiet like or subscribe. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. And if you wish, you can leave a comment with your city and the time of night where you are, a quiet nod across the globe to all the other souls settling into rest. It's a nice thought, isn't it? Knowing you're not alone in this quiet moment. All right, let the shadows in your room grow long and soft. Maybe you can hear the faint sound of your own breathing. And together, let's allow the story to begin. You are standing in a place bleached by time and sun. The year doesn't matter, not really. It could be 1550 or 1650th, here in the heel of Italy's boot, in the region they call Apulia. Time doesn't march forward so much as it circles, like a hawk on a hot updraft. Your world is painted into colors, the blinding white of the sun on plaster walls, and the sharp, dark black of the shadows they create. Everything is stark. The heat is not just in the air, it feels like a physical weight. It presses down on your shoulders, on the dusty cobblestones under your bare feet, on the terracotta tiles of the rooftops that shimmer and warp in the midday haze. The air is thick, not with the smell of dust, of baked earth, of wild oregano growing in the cracks of a wall, and something else, something like stillness itself. It's a quiet so profound you can hear the buzzing of a fly a street away. This is your village. It's a labyrinth of narrow, winding alleys, all leading to a small, sun-scorched central square. Every building huddles against its neighbor, as if for protection from the relentless sky. During these hours, the hottest part of the day, the village appears abandoned. Every wooden shutter is drawn tight, every heavy door is barred from the inside. But you know better. It isn't empty, behind those shutters in the cool, dark interiors. Life goes on in whispers. Every window is a pair of eyes, every doorway a silent judgment. There are rules here, you see. They aren't written down in any book or proclaimed by any duke. They are breathed in with the dusty air from the moment you are born. They are the unspoken laws of honor, of shame, of who you can speak to, of how you must lower your eyes when a man walks by, of the precise way you must carry the water jug from the well so as not to draw the wrong kind of attention. Your life is a map drawn by others. From your home to the well. From the well to the church with its cool, stone interior that smells of incense and damp grace. From the church back home. This is the well-worn triangle that defines your existence. To step outside of it, even by a few feet, is to invite whispers. And whispers in a village like this can be sharper than any knife. So you walk the path. You become small. It's a world governed by unseen forces. Everyone knows of the malocchio, the evil eye, a curse delivered by a glance of envy. To guard against it, you might clutch a small twisted red horn charm hidden in your pocket, or make a secret gesture with your fingers when you pass someone of ill repute. It's a funny thing, really. The priest preaches of one God and one devil in the church on Sunday, but the rest of the week is governed by these much older, more intimate fears. Historians and anthropologists still debate whether the stifling quiet of villages like this was born from piety, poverty, or a much older, deeper fear of chaos that the church could never quite erase. So you exist in the heat, in the quiet, in the suffocating web of unspoken rules. Your days are a rhythm of repetitive, useful tasks. Mending cloth, grinding wheat, tending the small fire. There is a strange comfort in it, the safety of the predictable. But there is also a profound, bone-deep weariness, a feeling that your life is a single, unchanging note held for years. Sometimes when you are fetching water, you pause for a moment and look out past the village, to the silvery green of the olive groves that stretch to the horizon. You wonder what it would feel like to simply walk into them and not come back. The thought is as terrifying as it is tempting. But you always turn back. You pick up your jug and walk the proper path back to your proper place. The sun beats down. The cicadas drone on, their relentless sighing song, the only sound in the world. It's the sound of heat, a summer of endless, identical afternoons. But it's the silence that is the loudest thing of all the heavy blankets mothering the world. A silence that feels like it's waiting for a single piercing note to tear it all apart. That piercing note you were waiting for doesn't come as a scream. It arrives, as most things do in your village, as a whisper. It rustles in the sliver of shade between two houses where a pair of women are pitting olives. Their fingers stained black, their voices as dry and crackling as old leaves. You are nearby, sweeping the dust from your family's doorstep, a mindless rhythmic toss. You are not supposed to be listening, of course, but the air is so still, and their words are sharp enough to cut through the heat. They are talking about a girl from the next village over, a girl your age. They say she has been bitten. The word hangs in the air. Bitten. Not by a dog, not by a snake. Everyone knows what they mean. They mean the spider, the tarantula. You've heard stories of this creature your whole life. It's the villain in nursery rhymes, the monster in cautionary tales told on long winter nights. It is not like other animals. The wolf is hungry, the snake is frightened, but the spider, they say, is malicious. It is a small, hairy knot of pure spite that lives in the cracks of the parched earth. It loves the sun, which is why it is most dangerous in the summer, especially during the harvest when you are out in the fields, your ankles bare, your attention on the wheat. The women's voices drop lower. They describe the spider's bite. It's not always a sharp, noticeable pain. Sometimes you don't feel it at all. It is a phantom sting. The venom is not a fire that burns through your veins. No, it is a cold, slow poison. An ice that seeps into your soul. Its first symptom is not a fever or a rash, but a feeling, a profound lethargy. A deep, unshakable sadness they call tristesse. The girl from the next village, they say, simply stopped. She stopped eating. She would just sit on her stool and stare at the wall, her eyes wide and empty, as if she were watching a world no one else could see. This is the mainstream understanding of the affliction, the shared knowledge that passes from mother to daughter. This sickness, this Tarantism, is a real and present danger, as certain as the rising sun. And as you listen, you learn something new, a strange and specific detail. One of the old women, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, insists that there are many kinds of spiders, and each one imparts a different kind of madness. There is the sad spider whose bite plunges you into despair, but there is also the wild, tempestuous spider whose venom fills you with a furious, destructive rage. She even speaks of a libertine spider, her voice dropping to a scandalized whisper, whose bite makes a decent girl forget all shame and honor. It's a bizarrely detailed system of toxicology, a folk science of venomous personalities. You pause your sweeping, pretending to focus on a stubborn clump of dirt. The very name is a mystery, a little chicken and egg puzzle that scholars centuries from now will puzzle over. Did the sickness get its name from the city of Taranto, a place where it was said to be common? Or did the spider, the Lycaea tarantula, give its name to both the city and the sickness? No one here knows or cares. The name is not important. You try to picture the spider, not the little ones that build webs in the corners of the ceiling. This one is different. It's an earth dweller, a hunter. In your mind's eye, it becomes a mythological beast, its shadow growing impossibly large in the afternoon sun. A creature that seems to have more public relations problems than a disgraced duke. Its only purpose is to crawl out of the hot dust and inject its particular brand of chaos into the quiet, ordered world of women. The conversation between the old women moves on to gossip about the price of olive oil, and you resume the gentle rhythm of your sweeping. But the words have stuck to you, an unseen sting. A sadness that comes from nowhere, a listlessness so heavy you can no longer lift your own head. You finish your work and retreat into the cool darkness of your home. You sit on your own small stool, the broom resting against the wall, and you find yourself staring. Not at the wall, but inward. You think about the weight you feel in your own limbs some mornings. The strange, quiet exhaustion that has nothing to do with physical labor. The feeling from chapter 1 of your life being a single, unchanging note. It was just a feeling before, a nameless, shapeless part of your existence as common and unremarkable as the heat. But now, thanks to the whispers of two old women in the shade, it has a shape, it has a cause. It has the shadow of 8 hairy legs. The idea is absurd, and you try to push it away. But it lingers, a quiet, unsettling question that begins to echo in the silence of your own mind. What if the weariness you feel isn't just life? What if it's a poison waiting? The next morning, you wake up and the world feels heavier. It's a subtle shift, not something you can point to or explain. The woolen blanket that was a comfort during the cooler night now feels like a leaden shroud you have to fight your way out of. When you stand, the stone floor seems to pull at the soles of your feet, making each step a conscious effort. The familiar way to the water jug feels doubled as you make your way to the well. It's as if gravity has decided to focus its full attention personally on you. This is the weight of stillness. Not the peaceful stillness of rest, but the oppressive stillness of stagnation. Your life, once a predictable rhythm, now feels like a cage. The repetitive motions of your chores, the circular grinding of wheat, the back and forth scrub of a wooden board, the repeated dip and pull of a needle through cloth, are no longer comforting. They are a form of slow-motion torture. Each rotation, each stitch, is a reminder of the thousands that have come before and the millions that will come after, all identical. You look at your hands. They are capable. They are capable. They know how to knead dough, how to mend a tear so it's nearly invisible, how to soothe a fussy baby. But they are not your own. They belong to the household, to the chores, to the endless cycle of tasks that keep the family unit functioning. You watch them move, almost as if they belong to someone else, performing their duties with a muscle memory you no longer feel connected to. The silence of the house, once a familiar backdrop, now hums with a low, anxious energy. You can feel the unspoken expectations in the air, the expectation to be dutiful, to be quiet, to be content. Your mother doesn't need to speak, her gaze is enough. A slight narrowing of her eyes when you pause your work for too long. The tight set of her jaw when you sigh. These are the corrections, the invisible fences that keep you on the well-worn path. It's in these moments you become acutely aware of the social confines of your world. As a young woman, you are a vessel of family honor. Your virtue is not your own. It is a commodity, a fragile treasure that your father and brothers are tasked with guarding. Your future is a negotiation you will not be present for. It will be decided over a flask of wine between your father and another man, a transaction of dowry and land and prospects. You are the silent, human clause in their contract. This is not presented as cruelty. It is presented as protection, as the natural order of things. It's a concept so deeply ingrained in your culture that to even question it would be like questioning why the sun rises in the east. Historians call this a patriarchal society, but that's a clean academic term. For you, it is the air you breathe, the walls of every room, the eyes of every neighbor. And then there's the odd, paradoxical little fact of your world, the cult of motherhood. You are revered as the potential giver of life, placed on a pedestal of domestic sainthood. Yet you are given almost no control over that life, or your own body. This contradiction creates a kind of psychic pressure that has nowhere to go. There are no words for it. There is no concept of expressing your frustration or talking about your feelings. Feelings are a luxury, a dangerous indulgence. They are meant to be swallowed down, pushed deep into a dark place where they can't cause any trouble. So you push them down. The frustration, the boredom, the flicker of a terrifying, formless ambition to be something else. Anything else. You pack it all down day after day until it becomes a dense, heavy ball in the pit of your stomach. You look out the small, unglazed window of your home. It frames a perfect, suffocating square of blue sky. You see a bird fly across it, effortless and free, and a feeling so sharp and painful pierces you that it almost makes you gasp. It is a mix of longing and anger and a sadness so profound it feels ancient. You feel trapped. Not by locked doors or iron bars, but by love, by duty, by the suffocating weight of a world that has decided who you are, long before you ever had a chance to. And as you stand there, staring at that empty patch of sky, the lethargy you felt in your limbs begins to creep deeper. It's no longer just a physical sensation. It's an emotional one. A slow, creeping numbness. The colors of the world seem to fade a little. the edges blurring. The vibrant world of sun and shadow is becoming a uniform, dull gray. The weight of stillness is no longer just around you. The grayness you noticed in the world outside begins to seep into your very being. It's not a dramatic collapse, not a sudden fever. It's much quieter than that, much more insidious. It's like watching a cup of clear water slowly cloud with a single drop of ink. At first, you can barely see the change, but soon the entire glass is murky, and you can't remember what the clarity ever looked like. This is the sting. An unseen, unfelt puncture that has allowed a strange melancholy to enter your bloodstream. You begin to move through your days like a ghost in your own life. Your body performs its tasks, fetching the water, feeding the chickens, sweeping the floor, but your mind is 1,000 miles away, floating in a thick, featureless fog. Conversations happen around you, a murmur of voices that you can't pass into meaningful sentences. Someone asks you a question, and by the time you've waded through the fog to find an answer, the moment has passed. They look at you with a flicker of concern, or maybe irritation, and then turn away. Food loses its taste. The sharp tang of an olive, the comforting warmth of fresh bread, the sweetness of a sun-ripened fig, it all turns to ash in your mouth. You chew and swallow because you must. But there is no pleasure in it, only the mechanics of survival. You start to lose weight, a subtle hollowing of your cheeks, a loosening of your simple dress around your shoulders. Sleep offers no escape. You lie on your straw mattress in the dark, but your mind refuses to quiet. It doesn't race with thoughts or worries that would be too active, too energetic. Instead, it just hums. A low, monotonous drone of nothingness. You stare into the darkness, feeling a profound and terrifying emptiness yawn open inside you. When you do finally drift off, your dreams are colorless and strange. You dream of being trapped under a heavy, suffocating blanket, or of trying to run through thick, waist-deep mud, your legs refusing to move. You wake up more exhausted than when you went to bed. This affliction, this deep and nameless sorrow, is a notoriously tricky thing for historians to pin down. Some modern scholars looking back might try to diagnose it with contemporary terms, clinical depression, perhaps, or conversion disorder. But those labels don't fit. They are sterile, scientific classifications for a suffering that, in your time, is deeply intertwined with the spiritual and the supernatural. Your melancholy isn't seen as a chemical imbalance. It's a spiritual ailment, a tainting of the soul. You try to fight it. You try to fight it. You try to focus on your work, to pray in the church, to force a smile when your family speaks to you. But it's like trying to punch water. There's nothing to resist. The melancholy is not an external enemy, it's a part of you now. It's in the slowness of your blink, the drag of your feet, the hollowness of your gaze. One afternoon, your mother finds you sitting on the floor in the corner of the room, staring at a spider in the rafters. You've been there for an hour motionless. She calls your name. Once, twice. The sound barely penetrates the fog. She comes over and places a hand on your forehead, searching for a fever. Your skin is cool. She shakes your shoulder, gently at first, then with more force. What is wrong with you? She asks, her voice a mixture of fear and frustration. You look at her, and for a moment, the fog clears just enough for you to see the genuine terror in her eyes. You try to answer, to tell her what's happening. But there are no words. How do you describe the color gray to someone living in a world of vibrant sun? How do you explain that your very soul feels like it has been stung, and that a slow, cold poison is now doing its work, draining the very essence of you, drop by drop? You can't. So you just shake your head, a slow, heavy movement, and a single tear, hot and real, escapes and traces a path through the dust on your cheek. The sight of it galvanizes your mother. This is not laziness. This is not teenage sulking. This is something else, something ancient and frightening. She recognizes the symptoms not from a physician's manual, but from the whispered stories of the village. The sudden lethargy, the deep sadness, the vacant stare, the phantom sting has finally revealed its venom. And she knows with a certainty that chills her to the bone, that this is not a sickness she can cure with herbal tea or prayer. This is the work of the spider. Your mother's fear now becomes a quiet, frantic energy. The family huddles. Whispers are exchanged late at night after you've fallen into your fitful, exhausting sleep. Your father, a man whose hands are more comfortable holding a shovel than dealing with the fragile mysteries of a daughter's mind, is at a loss. He sees your decline not just as a tragedy, but as a problem, a disruption to the household, a potential source of shame. How can a proper marriage be arranged for a girl who just stares? He suggests the priest. An exorcism, perhaps, to cast out whatever demon has taken root in your soul. But your mother and your grandmother, they shake their heads. The priest's prayers are for sins of the spirit. What you have is a poison in the blood. It's an older magic, a thing of the earth, and it requires an older remedy. So they don't send for a doctor. In your time, a formally trained physician is a rare and expensive creature, found mostly in the wealthy cities. Their medicine is a strange and often useless brew of theory, based on the four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. A doctor would likely diagnose you with an excess of black bile, leading to what they call melancholia. His cure would be unpleasant and expensive foul-tasting purges, perhaps some light bloodletting to rebalance your humours. The family has no money for such things, and more importantly, no faith in them. The academics of the distant city do not understand the afflictions of the sun-baked south. Instead, they send for someone local. She isn't a doctor or a priestess. She's just an old woman, the one they call the Makara. She's a figure that lives in the grey area between folk medicine and low-grade magic. She knows which herbs can soothe a fever, which poultices can draw out an infection, and which chants can ward off the evil eyes. She is the keeper of the village's unwritten knowledge, a tradition passed down through generations. Some historians might call her a witch. To your family, she is simply a specialist. She arrives at dusk, a small, hunched figure wrapped in a dog shawl, smelling of wood smoke and dried herbs. She doesn't bring a medical bag. She brings only her eyes, which are old and sharp and seem to see more than is there. She doesn't ask you questions. She knows you cannot answer. Instead, she observes you. She watches the way you sit, the way your hands lie limp in your lap, the way your eyes refuse to focus. She walks around you, muttering to herself, her lips barely moving. She takes one of your hands. Her skin is as dry and rough as bark. She turns your palm over, tracing the lines with a gnarled finger, just looking for a sign, a mark, a tiny red dot that might be the site of the spider's bite. Of course, she finds nothing. The bite is almost never visible. This absence of evidence is, paradoxically, considered evidence in itself. The spider's poison is so insidious it leaves no trace on the skin, attacking the spirit directly. After a long, silent examination, she finally speaks. Her voice is a low, gravelly rasp. She doesn't speak to you, but to your anxious parents, who are hovering by the doorway. It is the tarantula, she says, her tone leaving no room for argument. It is not a suggestion or a possibility. It is a diagnosis, delivered with the absolute certainty of a judge passing sentence. She elaborates, adding a layer of folk wisdom to the diagnosis. She asks your mother where you were working last week. In the wheat fields, during the hottest part of the day. Oh, yes, she nods sagely. It was almost certainly the reaper spider, the one that strikes during the harvest. Its venom is particularly potent, she explains, because it is heated by the midday sun. It produces a deep, stubborn melancholy, one that can lead to a slow, wasting death if left untreated. This is the moment of classification. Your nameless, formless suffering is finally given a concrete identity. It is not a failing of your character, nor a weakness of your will, nor a punishment from God. It is an external attack. You are not mad, you are poisoned. You are a victim of a tiny, eight-legged monster. This diagnosis is a strange and profound relief for your family. A monster can be fought. A monster can be fought. A named enemy is far less terrifying than a nameless dread. The whispers now have a focus. The family's honor is in a strange way preserved. You are not a broken girl, you are a victim of the region's most infamous and ancient curse. The verdict has been delivered. The diagnosis changes everything. Before, You were a source of worry and confusion, a disruption in the fabric of the home. Now, you are a patient. You have been given a new identity, a formal title whispered throughout the village alleys with a mixture of fear, pity, and a certain grim excitement. You are a Tarantella, a woman bitten by the tea-spider. The word itself is heavy. It settles over you, defining your condition for everyone. Being a Tarantella is not like having a cough or a fever. It's a state of being, a public role you must now inhabit. Your listlessness is no longer just a personal sorrow. Your refusal to eat is a sign of the venom's power. News travels fast in a village where whispers are the primary form of communication. The mocker's diagnosis spreads from your doorstep like a ripple in a pond. The neighbors who previously might have gossiped about your strange behavior now nod with understanding. "Ah, the tarantula," they say, making a small sign to ward off evil. "The poor girl, your affliction has been legitimized. It has been entered into the public record of the village's collective mind. You become a focal point of communal anxiety. The spider that bit you could be lurking anywhere. Other mothers pull their daughters at a thawser, warning them to wear shoes in the fields, to be wary of the hot, dusty ground. Your personal crisis has reinforced a shared cultural fear. You are living proof that the old stories are true, that the eight-legged shadow is real and ever-present. For your family, the diagnosis provides a clear, if terrifying, path forward. The ambiguity is gone. They now have a mission to save you. This mission comes with a set of established, ritualistic steps. It is a script that has been performed in this region for centuries. They know what they have to do next, because their parents and grandparents did it before them. First, your room is prepared. It becomes a strange sort of sick room, but not one of sickness as we know it. There is no medicine, no bed rest. In fact, it is the opposite. The heavy wooden table is pushed against the wall. The stools are removed. The floor is swept clean, creating an open space, a stage. This is a fashionated counterintuitive approach to healing. A modern doctor would prescribe rest and quiet for someone in your state of profound lethargy. But the folk wisdom here dictates that the only way to cure this stillness is with its polar opposite, frantic, violent motion. Then, they bring in colors. This is one of the strangest and most visually striking elements of the ritual. Your family members hang long, brightly colored ribbons from the rafters of the ceiling. Red, green, yellow, blue, vibrant strips of cloth that transform the drab, whitewashed room into a festive, almost carnival-like space. This isn't just decoration. According to the law, each type of spider has a favorite color. The venom inside you, they believe, will be drawn to certain colors, and your reaction to them will help confirm the exact nature of your eight-legged aggressor. Historians who study these rituals often point out that these might be remnants of much older, pre-Christian nature rituals, where colors held deep symbolic meanings that the church later tried to suppress. The idea that a spiritual poison has interior design preferences is, to say the least, a bit quirky. You sit on the floor in the middle of this strangely decorated room, a still point in a world that is beginning to swirl with ritualistic energy. You are the patient, but you are also the centerpiece of a drama about to unfold. You are no longer just a girl. You are the Tarantella, the vessel for the poison. The community now understands you, has a name for you, and has a plan for you, and has a plan for you. The weight of this new identity is immense, but in a strange way. It is less burdensome than the weight of the nameless melancholy that preceded it. The diagnosis wasn't just for your family. It was for you too. It gave your suffering a story, a narrative, and every story, no matter how terrifying, has an ending. The diagnosis has been made. The stage has been set. The ribbons hang like silent, colorful prayers in the stuffy air of the room. But there is a crucial element missing. A diagnosis is not a cure. A stage is empty without its players. And for the bite of the tarantula, there is only one medicine. It is not an herb you can grind, nor a prayer you can recite. This is not a metaphor. In your world, it is a literal medical fact, as accepted as the idea that water quenches thirst. A specific kind of frantic, hypnotic music is the only known antidote to the spider's venom, and the people who wield this medicine are not doctors or priests. They are the Therapeutai, the healers, a small, specialized band of musicians. The call must go out. This is not a simple decision. You sense the tension in your parents' hushed, urgent conversation, which filters through the fog of your melancholy. To summon the musicians is a serious and, more importantly, an expensive undertaking. These are not wandering minstrels who will play for a few coins and a cup of wine. They are specialists, and they charge for their services. They are paid by the hour, and the cure is known to take days. Your father hesitates. You can hear the worry in his voice. The harvest was not as good this year. A new tax has been levied by the local baron. Hiring the musicians might mean selling a goat or going into debt with a wealthy landowner. He paces the small room, his footsteps heavy with the weight of the choice. But your mother is firm. She looks at you, her altar fading away on the floor. What is a goat compared to a life? What is debt compared to the silence that is consuming you? Her voice is low but sharp, cutting through your father's pragmatic anxieties. The decision is made. A young boy, one of your cousins, is summoned. He is given the urgent, almost sacred task of fetching the musicians. They don't live in your village. Specialized healers like this are rare, and they usually live in a larger, centrally located town, serving all the smaller hamlets in the surrounding area. The boy is given a coin for his troubles and a piece of bread for the journey, and he shoots out of the village, his bare feet kicking up dust, a tiny messenger carrying a plea for a sonic cure. This is the established medical system for this particular ailment. If you had a broken bone, you'd go to the bone setter, for a fever the herbalist, for a spiritual crisis the priest, but for the bite of the spider, you call the band. It's a fascinatedly specific piece of cultural medicine. Historians of science and medicine often point to Tarantism as a prime example of how belief can shape a physical reality. The community so profoundly believed that music was the cure that it became the only viable treatment, a kind of ritualized, large-scale placebo effect whose power was very, very real. The musicians themselves were often figures of great respect and a little bit of fear. They were usually men, a fiddler, and a corydonist, a tambourine player, who understood the strange alchemy of their art. They knew the specific rhythms, the hypnotic, repetitive melodies that were required. This music had a name, the pizzica. It was not gentle, soothing music. It was wild, fast, and relentless, designed not to calm the patient, but to agitate the poison, to draw it out, to force it to dance itself to death inside you. Scholars of music and history still argue about the origins of these frantic melodies. Are they the last vestiges of ancient Greek Dionysian rites, pagan celebrations of ecstatic dance that survived for centuries under a thin Christian veneer? Or are they simply a regional folk music style that was co-opted for this healing ritual? The truth is likely a messy combination of both. As the sun begins to set, casting long orange shadows across the room, a new kind of quiet descends. It is not the lethargic quiet of your sickness, but the quiet of anticipation. The entire village seems to be holding its breath. The messenger is on his way. The only medicine that matters is not raveling towards you, not in a bottle or a pouch, but as a vibration in the air, a promise of a rhythm that can fight the poison that has silenced you. You sit and you wait. Your family waits with you. You are all waiting for the sound that would either save you or fail you. The waiting stretches through the night and into the thick, humid heat of the next afternoon. The village remains in a state of suspended animation. Then, a shimmer of sound. At first, it's just a feeling, a faint vibration in the dusty air. Then it sharpens into the distant, rhythmic jangling of a tambourine and the high, weary cry of a fiddle. They are here. The arrival of the cure is not a quiet, solemn affair. It's a small, noisy procession that breaks the village's lethargic spell. The musicians, the Therapeutai, walk into the central square as if they own it. There are 3 of them. The fiddler is a weary old man with a deeply lined face and eyes that seem to hold a weary amusement. The accordion player is younger, barrel-chested, with a look of intense concentration already on his face. And the tambourine player, a man with wild, dark hair, carries his instrument with the reverence of a priest carrying a sacred text. They do not carry medical bags filled with vials and scalpels. Their instruments are their tools of healing. their pharmacopoeia. The fiddle, with its ability to mimic the human voice, to wail and to soothe. The accordion, a breathing, wheezing creature that provides the deep, hypnotic drone, the harmonic bedrock of the cure. And the tambourine, the most crucial of all. Its bright, clashing cymbals and the deep thump of the drum skin are the heartbeat of the music, the driving, relentless pulse that cannot be ignored. The villagers emerge from their cool, dark homes, drawn by the sound. They keep a respectful distance, their faces a mixture of awe, fear, and a morbid, undeniable curiosity. This is a medical procedure, but it is also a public spectacle. The musicians are not just healers, they are performers, and they have an audience. They make their way directly to your family's home. Your father meets them at the door, his face grim, his posture deferential. There is a brief, mumbled negotiation. Coins are discreetly passed from one hand to another, a down payment on your life. The musicians nod, their faces impassive. They have done this hundreds of times, they know the script. They step inside. The small room, already crowded with your family, suddenly feels packed. The musicians seem to fill the space with a new kind of energy, a professional competence that is strangely reassuring. They smell of sweat, of wine, of the long, dusty road. They are not otherworldly shamans. They are working men, artisans whose craft is the manipulation of sound. They don't speak to you. You are the patient, the vessel, the object of their work. They barely even look at you. Instead, they begin their preparations with a practiced efficiency. The fiddler rosines his bow, a sharp, scraping sound that cuts the tense silence. The accordionist straps his heavy instrument to his chest, flexing his fingers. The tambourine player tests the skin of his drum with his thumb, listening for the perfect resonance. This is a strange medical consultation. A modern observer would be struck by the complete lack of patient history or physical examination. They don't ask about your diet, your sleep, your emotional state. They already had the diagnosis spider, and they already had the prescription music. This specific moment in history is a fascinating crossroads. While learned physicians in Padua or Bologna were debating the theories of Galen and Aristotle, this entirely separate, and in its own way equally rigorous system of medicine was being practiced in the rural South. It had its own experts, its own theories of disease, and its own unique form of treatment. Some musicologists have even proposed a theory of musical homeopathy to describe what's happening. The idea is that the poison creates a specific, negative rhythm within the victim's body, and only an external rhythm that is like the poison, frantic, chaotic, relentless, can enter the body, match the venom's frequency, and then overwhelm it, forcing it out. This is, of course, a modern interpretation. For the musicians, the logic is much simpler. The spider dances, and you must dance with it until it is exhausted and leaves you in peace. They take their positions in the corner of the room, turning the cleared space in front of you into a performance area, a dance floor, an operating theater. There is a final, charged moment of silence. The fiddler lifts his bell. The accordionist rests his fingers on the keys. The tambourine player raises his instrument high. Everyone in the room, your parents, your siblings, the musicians themselves, is looking at you. You are the still, silent center of it all. They are waiting for the first note of the cure to be played. And you, in the depths of your grey fog, are about to have your world torn open by sound. The silence doesn't break. The first sound is not a melody, but a percussive explosion. The tambourine player strikes the skin of his instrument with the flat of his palm, a deep, resonant thump that seems to jolt the very air in the room. It's immediately followed by the sharp, metallic jangle of the cymbals as he shakes it, a sound like 1,000 tiny shards of glass. Thump jangle jangle. It's a sound that doesn't invite you to listen. It commands your attention. It's a heartbeat, a frantic, galloping, panicked heartbeat. Then the fiddle joins in. It doesn't play a sweet tune. It lets out a high, screeching note, a tense, weary sound that slides and scrapes, full of a strange, nervous energy. It's less like music and more like a captured animal crying out. It repeats a short, jagged phrase over and over, circling like a vulture, never resolving, never offering a moment of peace, and beneath it all, the accordion breathes its first long, wheezing chord. It is the drone, the hypnotic foundation. It provides a single, unchanging harmonic bass, a sonic floor upon which the frantic dance of the fiddle and tambourine can unfold. The combination is immediate and overwhelming. It's not beautiful. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. This is the pizzica, the bite. It is musical medicine at its most aggressive. The rhythm is the key. It's a driving 6/8 time, a rhythm that has a peculiar, lurching quality. It's a rhythm that feels like it's constantly falling forward, forcing you to catch up. It is relentless. There are no pauses, no breaks. The musicians play with a fierce, almost punishing intensity. Sweat is already beading on their foreheads. Their bodies rock back and forth, completely absorbed in the creation of this sonic assault. This music is a well-honed tool, and its design is deeply psychological. Modern ethnomusicologists who had studied the surviving forms of this music point to its repetitive, psychical nature as a key to its power. Unlike a classical sonata that tells a story with a beginning, middle, and end, the pizzica goes nowhere. It simply is. It creates a closed loop of sound that is incredibly easy to get lost in. The constant repetition of the same short melodic fragments and rhythmic patterns is designed to bypass the conscious mind, to break down your rational thoughts and speak directly to your body, to your nervous system. It's a key designed to unlock it or deep inside you. You are still sitting on the floor, the epicenter of this sonic storm. The sound is a physical force. You feel the thump of the tambourine in your chest, the high whine of the fiddle vibrating in your teeth. Your first instinct is to shrink away, to cover your ears, to retreat even deeper into your grey fog where it is quiet. But you can't. The sound is too big, too insistent. It fills the room, the house, your head. It seems to be searching for something inside you. The musicians are watching you. Not directly, but with a keen, peripheral awareness. They are not just playing notes. They are administering a dose. They adjust the tempo, the intensity, based on your non-reaction. The fiddler might play a slightly more agitated phrase. The tambourine player might add a series of rapid-fire triplets, testing you, probing you. They are looking for a sign, any sign, that the medicine is beginning to work. They are trying to awaken the poison. The law of Tarantism is very specific on this point. The venom of the spider, they say, has a musical personality. When you are bitten, the spider's essence, its rhythm, enters you and puts your own natural rhythm to sleep. To cure you, the musicians must play different variations of the pizzica, and find the one that matches the specific tune of the spider that will be awakened, drawn out by its own song. This is why the music is so crucial and so specific. It's a sonic key, and they are trying every version on the lock of your affliction until they find the one that fits. So they play on. The same hypnotic, maddening rhythm over and over. The air grows thick with the smell of sweat and the sheer density of the sound. It feels like the world has been reduced to this single, pulsating rhythm. And inside your silent, grey world, something begins to stir, a tiny, unwelcome tremor. The thrum of the pizzica has found a resonance deep within your frozen limbs. The tremor begins in your left foot. It's barely perceptible at first, a faint, rhythmic tapping of your big toe against the hard-packed earth of the floor. It is not a conscious decision. You are not choosing to move. Your body is responding on its own, a puppet whose strings are being pulled by the relentless thrum of the music. The grey fog in your mind is still thick, but this small, independent movement is a crack in its surface. Your mother sees it first. She lets out a small, sharp gasp, a sound that is half hope, half fear. She nudges your father, pointing with a trembling finger. The musicians, with their keen, sideways glances, see it too. A subtle shift in their playing occurs. The tambourine's beat becomes a fraction more intense, more insistent. The fiddler leans into his melody, repeating the jagged phrase with a new, sharper edge. They have found a crack in your stillness, and now they are applying pressure. The twitch travels from your toe. It moves into your ankle, a series of small, uncontrollable jerks. It's a deeply unsettling sensation, as if a part of your own body is betraying you, acting on a will that is not your own. You are a spectator in your own skin. Then your hip, a convulsive shudder that rocks your seated frame. You try to stop it, to use your will to force your muscles into submission. But it's impossible. A current flowing through your nerves, and your limbs are simply conductors for its energy. This is the classic, textbook moment of the ritual's beginning. Accounts from doctors and travelers who witnessed these events from the 15th century onwards all describe this same phenomenon, the slow, involuntary surrender of the body to the music. One of the most famous early accounts, written by a physician named Giorgio Bagli in the late 17th century, describes the Tarantella as being in a state of melancholy stupor from which only this specific music could rouse them, with a scientist's baffled curiosity how the patient's limbs would begin to move, as if by themselves as soon as the correct tune was played. He couldn't explain it within his medical framework, but he couldn't deny what he saw. The shaking intensifies. Your whole body is now trembling, a leaf caught in a gale. Your head lolls less on your neck, your arms begin to flail. Your hands begin to flail, your arms begin to flail. Your hands clenching and unclenching. It is not a loud but a pure, guttural expression of something. Distress, release. It's impossible to say. Your family rushes forward. This is not the time for comfort or gentle touches. Their role is to assist the betrayal. Two of your aunts take your arms, hoisting you to your feet. Your legs buckle, unable to support your weight. You are a dead weight between them, your head hanging, your body still convulsing to the rhythm. They hold you up, positioning you in the center of the cleared space. You are a marionette, and they are placing you on the stage. The music swells. It seems to feed on your movement, growing louder, faster, more frenzied. The musicians are locked in now, a tight, focused unit, pouring all their energy into the sonic wave they are creating. And then something shifts. The chaotic, convulsive shaking begins to find a rhythm. Your feet, which were just moments ago unable to even stand, begin to move. A clumsy, shuffling step, then another. Your arms let go, and you remain standing, swaying unsteadily, but upright. Your eyes are still glazed over, unfocused, staring at a point somewhere beyond the walls of the room. But you are on your feet. The body that was your prison, the heavy, leaden flesh that kept you trapped in stillness, has been hijacked. It has been betrayed by an external force and turned into an instrument of the very chaos you were trying to escape. But in this betrayal, there is a strange, terrifying liberation. You are no longer responsible for your actions. The music is in control. Your conscious mind, the part of you that knows the rules of the village, the shame, the expectations, it is a helpless passenger. Your body, for the first time in your life, is about to do exactly what it wants, or rather, what the spider inside you wants. The dance is about to begin. The transition from convulsive shaking to actual dancing is not graceful. It's a messy, violent birth of motion. Your first steps are clumsy and uncontrolled, a series of stumbles and lurches. You knock into a wall, your shoulder hitting the plaster with a dull thud. You nearly fall, catching yourself at the last moment. Your limbs seem too long, your joints disconnected. You are like a newborn foal, all legs and no coordination, trying to make sense of a body that has suddenly been switched on. That the music is a relentless teacher. The beat, THUMP jangle jangle, is an insistent command. Step. Now. Step. Now. Slowly, agonizingly, your movements begin to align with the rhythm. The lurching smooths into a stomp. The flailing of your arms finds a kind of frantic, repetitive pattern. You are not performing any recognizable dance step. This is not a waltz or a jig. This is a raw, primal response to sound, an exorcism through motion. The small, stuffy room can no longer contain this energy. It's too big, too wild. Your father understands. He opens the heavy wooden door, and the blinding white sunlight of the village square floods in, making you squint. This is the next phase of the ritual. And it is crucial. And it is crucial. Your healing cannot happen in private. It must be a public act. It must be witnessed. You are gently but firmly guided out of the house. As you cross the threshold, the music follows you, the sound suddenly seeming thinner in the open air but no less powerful. You stumbled into the piazza, the central square of the village, a space usually reserved for the Sunday market or the quiet conversations of old men. Now, it is your stage. The dust of the square puffs up around your bare feet. The heat from the baked earth radiates upwards, a palpable force, and you dance. Your family forms a loose circle around you, a protective but permeable barrier. The rest of the village begins to gather. They come out of their houses, drawn by the undeniable spectacle of the music and your frenzied movements. They stand at a distance, their faces a complex tapestry of emotions. There is pity in their eyes, but also a deep, chilling fear, a recognition that this strange madness could befall any of them. And beneath it all, there is an undeniable layer of entertainment. This is the most dramatic thing that will happen in the village all year. This public performance is one of the most debated aspects of Tarantism. Why did it have to be so public? A modern therapist might see it as a form of communal catharsis, a way for the entire village to process its shared anxieties through a single, symbolic vessel. Some historians, particularly those with a feminist perspective, have argued that this was one of the only ways for a woman to command public space and attention in such a deeply patriarchal society. For a few days, the powerless, voiceless girl becomes the absolute center of the universe, the star of a drama that captivates everyone. You are no longer invisible. You are seen. In fact, you are impossible to ignore. Your dance is a strange and painful thing to watch. You stomp your feet, raising clouds of dust. You spin in tight circles until you are dizzy and stumbling. You throw your head back, your hair, which is usually tied in a neat, respectable bun, coming loose and whipping around your face. You are drenched in sweat, your simple dress clinging to your body. You are the very picture of impropriety, of chaos, of everything a respectable woman is not supposed to be. That you are not judged for it. That's the strange, unspoken contract of this ritual. In this moment within the sacred circle of your healing dance, the normal rules of society are suspended for you. You are not a shameless woman. You are a Tarantella fighting for her life. Your immodesty is a symptom of the poison. Your wildness is the venom being expelled. Your exhaustion is a sign that the cure is working. The community watches, and by watching, they participate. In doing so, give you permission to enact this wild public cure. You are dancing in the dust under the harsh and forgiving sun, and for the first time, your every move is not a transgression, but a necessary step on the path to being whole again. Your world has shrunk to the circle of dust. Your feet are disturbing. The faces of the villagers are blurry, indistinct wall of color. The sun is a white fire in the sky. The only clear, sharp thing is the music. It is the track your mind is running on, a loop with no exit. Stomp, spin, sweat, repeat. But then a new element enters your limited field of vision. Your mother steps forward, holding the colorful ribbons they had hung in your room. She dangles them like a strange, limp bouquet. They flutter in the hot breeze, a slash of defiant scarlet, a strip of sun yellow, a length of deep, vibrant green. This is the next stage of the diagnosis, a test to discover the personality of your specific spider. Apparently, these tiny venomous tyrants are not only music critics, but also have strong opinions on color theory. Your frantic, aimless dance shifts. You slow your spinning, your head cocked, as if listening to a new command. Your gaze, which has been vacant and unfocused, now locks onto the ribbons with a terrifying intensity. You are a hawk spotting its prey. The crowd leans in, a collective murmur running through them. You are drawn to the red one. It's an immediate, primal pull. The other colors barely register. The red ribbon seems to pulse with a life of its own, a sliver of blood against the bleached-out backdrop of the square. You take a staggering step towards it, then another. Your hand, trembling with a mixture of eagerness and revulsion, shoots out and snatches it from your mother's grasp. You hold it aloft. To the onlookers, it's just a strip of dyed cloth. To you, in your trance, it is 1,000 things at once. It is the spider itself taunting you. It is the anger that has been simmering deep inside you, finally given a physical form. The musicians see your choice, and the music subtly changes. The fiddle's melody becomes more agitated, more aggressive. They are now playing the tune of the Red Spider. You begin to dance with the ribbon. It becomes your partner in this desperate performance. You whip it through the air, where it makes a satisfying snap. You let it trail on the ground, then stomp on it, as if trying to crush the spider it represents. You wrap it around your arm, a scarlet serpent, and then frantically try to unwind yourself from its grasp. This is the drama of your affliction, externalized for all to see. You are acting out your internal battle, a silent, violent opera of poison and cure. This is where things get even stranger, a detail that fascinates and perplexes historians. It wasn't just about an attraction to certain colors. The ritual also involved a violent aversion to others. The color black was almost universally reviled by the Tarantate. It was considered the color of death, the color of the spider's dark, earthy home. And as you dance your furious dance with the red ribbon, your eyes catch on something in the crowd. An old man, dressed in the traditional dark, homespun wool of a shepherd, his clothes the color of a starless night. Your body reacts instantly. You freeze. A low guttural hiss escapes your lips. You drop the red ribbon. All the frantic energy of your dance collapses into a single point of focused, venomous rage. You point a trembling finger at the man, your eyes filled with a terror so profound that he takes a step back. The crowd gasps. Your family rushes to form a tighter circle around you, shielding the man from your sight, their bodies a human wall. They gently murmur to you, trying to coax your attention away, back to the safe colors. This sudden shift from ecstatic dance to aggressive fury is a documented, if bizarre, part of the phenomenon. What did it all mean? The academic debate on this is a lively one. Some scholars argue the colors were a symbolic language, allowing a woman with no voice to express a spectrum of otherwise forbidden emotions: red for rage, green for jealousy, yellow for hope. Others suggest it's a remnant of ancient pagan color symbolism, repurposed for this folk medical ritual. And a more cynical, psychological view might be that it was simply a piece of theatrical stagecraft, an expected part of the performance that both the dancer and the audience understood on a subconscious level. The true meaning is likely lost to time, a secret kept between the dancers and their phantom spiders. For now, though, the crisis is averted. The man in black has been discreetly shuffled away. Your rage, deprived of its target, slowly subsides. You stand panting in the center of the square, your body trembling with exhaustion. The red ribbon lies in the dust at your feet, a silent testament to the battle that just took place. The sun, which was high in the sky when you stumbled out of your home, begins its slow descent, painting the white walls of the village in shades of orange and pink. But for you there is no reprieve. The musicians, perhaps after a brief pause to wet their throats with wine, take up their instruments again. The cure is not a matter of a few hours, it is a marathon. An endurance test for you, for your family, and for the musicians themselves. So the dance continues. The sun is your only clock, your only witness in the sky. As dusk settles, your family brings out flickering oil lamps, casting long, dancing shadows that make the scene even more surreal, more primal. The faces of the villagers in the firelight are like ancient masks. Your own shadow leaps and dries on the walls behind you, a huge, dark monster you are tethered to. Your body screams in protest. Your muscles burn with a fire that has nothing to do with spider venom. Your feet are bruised and raw from stomping on the hard, uneven ground. Your throat is parched, a desert of dust and thirst. Your family members try to help. Occasionally, your mother or an aunt will risk darting into the circle, holding a cup of water to your lips. You might take a sip, a purely reflexive action, before pushing it away and surrendering once more to the dance. There is no rest. When exhaustion finally overwhelms you and you collapse into a heap in the dust, the music does not stop. It softens, perhaps, becoming a gentler, more coaxing version of the pizzica. Your family will rush to your side, not to carry you to bed, but to chafe your wrists, to urge you back to your feet. Rest is not the cure. Rest is letting the poison win. So you are hauled upright, your protesting limbs are shaken into motion, and the frantic tempo resumed. You are forced to dance through the pain beyond the limits of what you thought your body could endure. This grueling, multi-day aspect of the cure is one of its most defining characteristics. Eyewitness accounts consistently describe the dance continuing for 3, for sometimes even 6 days. It was a brutal, physically punishing ordeal. It makes you wonder about the sheer physical resilience of these women, or perhaps the depths of the despair that made this exhausting cure seem like a viable, even desirable, alternative. From a modern physiological perspective, what you are doing is pushing your body into an extreme state. The relentless prolonged physical exertion, the dehydration, the lack of sleep, it's a recipe for inducing an altered state of consciousness. You are, in effect, dancing yourself into a trance, a state where the boundaries between the physical and the psychological, the real and the imagined, begin to dissolve completely. Historians and anthropologists often compare it to shamanistic rituals in other cultures, where dance and deprivation are used to achieve a state of spiritual ecstasy or vision. Here, the goal is not to see the gods, but to sweat out the devil in the form of a spider's poison. As the second day dawns, you are a different person. The civilized shell of the quiet, dutiful girl you were has been completely shattered. Your hair is a matted tangle. Your face is caked with a mask of sweat and dust. Your eyes are wild and unfocused. You are no longer fully present in the village square. You are somewhere else, in that internal landscape where you and the spider are locked in a mortal struggle. The sun climbs the sky again, repeating its journey. It beats down on you, a relentless hammer of heat and light. You have lost all track of time. Morning, noon, night, they're all the same, just different shades of light against which you must continue your desperate, punishing dance. You have become a creature of pure rhythm and motion, a human pendulum swinging between the brink of collapse and the frantic energy of the music. And the sun, the ancient, indifferent witness, just watches it all, its light bleaching the memory of one day into the next. You are in the center of the circle, but you are not alone. You have an audience, and their presence is as crucial to this ritual as the music itself. The circle of onlookers is a living, breathing entity, a constant presence at the edge of your delirium. They are the witnesses, the judges, and in a strange way, the co-conspirators in your cure. At first, the crowd was large. The novelty of the event drew everyone out. But as the hours stretch into days, the audience becomes a rotating cast of characters. Women on their way to the well pause for a while, their water jugs balanced on their heads, their faces a mixture of sympathy and morbid fascination. Men, on their way to the fields, stop at the edge of the square, leaning on their tools, watching your frantic dance with a quiet, unreadable expression. Initially shooed away by their parents, creep back to the periphery, their eyes wide with a mixture of terror and glee. This is better than any traveling puppet show. Their reactions are not passive. You can feel them, even through the haze of your exhaustion. You can hear their soft murmurs, the collective gasp when you stumble, the encouraging shouts when you manage a particularly energetic burst of movement. Forza. They might cry, strength, drive it out. This is a profoundly social form of healing. Your sickness is not a private matter to be dealt with behind closed doors. It is a community drama, and everyone has a role to play. By watching you, they are participating. They are lending their energy, their belief to the ritual. Their focused attention creates a kind of container, a social pressure cooker within which your transformation is supposed to occur. Without the audience, the ritual would lose much of its power. You would just be a person dancing alone in a square. With the audience, you are a patient undergoing a recognized and validated medical procedure. But their presence is a double-edged sword. While they offer a kind of support, they are also a jury. They are evaluating your performance. Is your dance wild enough? Does your suffering seem authentic? You are, in a sense, under immense pressure to perform your sickness correctly. This is a point that many sociologists who study Tarantism emphasize. The Tarantella had to conform to a very specific, culturally understood script. If you didn't dance, or if your dance was unconvincing, the cure wouldn't workshop to support it, and you might be suspected of faking the illness for attention, a deeply shameful accusation. It's a strange and fascinating paradox. The ritual offers a unique form of freedom. a temporary release from the crushing social constraints of your life. You are allowed, even encouraged to be wild, loud, and uninhibited, but this freedom is itself highly structured and regulated by the expectations of the community. It's a controlled explosion, a sanctioned release of chaos within a very rigid and predictable framework. The historians who debate this are torn. Was this a genuine expression of individual suffering or a highly ritualized performance of a social role? The most likely answer is that it was both, inextricably intertwined. Sometimes members of the crowd are drawn into the circle. An older woman, perhaps one who was a Tarantella herself in her youth, might be overcome by the music and the memories. She might step into the ring and begin to dance alongside you for a few minutes, her movements a ghostly echo of your own. This is a moment of profound solidarity, a recognition of a shared experience that transcends generations. It's a strange, fleeting sisterhood of the bitten. So you dance, not just for yourself, but for them. You are their proxy, acting out a drama that speaks to their own fears of sickness, of madness, of losing control. You are a mirror reflecting the anxieties of the entire community. And as you spin and stomp in the dust, you can feel their eyes on you, 100 invisible threads of attention, holding you upright, pinning you to the center of the stage, compelling you to keep moving, to keep dancing, until the poison is finally gone. Let's just pause for a moment here, in the swirling dust, in the relentless music. Let's take a small step back from your exhausted, dancing body and consider the villain of this whole drama. The supposed cause of all this misery and all this sweat. The spider, the tarantula. In your world, it is a creature of almost mythical malevolence. It is the small, hairy embodiment of a curse. A hunter that doesn't kill the body but poisons the soul. It is blamed for depression, for lethargy, for marital strife, for a young woman's silent despair. It carries the weight of 1,000 anxieties on its 8 furry legs. It is, without a doubt, the most successful scapegoat in the entire animal kingdom of southern Italy. Now let's allow the mist of time to clear for a moment and look at the actual creature at the heart of this belief. The Lycos tarantula, or the wolf spider. It is a real animal, of course. It's a ground-dwelling hunter, about the size of your thumb, covered in brownish-grey hair. It doesn't spin a web to catch its prey, but actively hunts for insects on the ground, which is likely how it came into such frequent contact with agricultural workers. It is a shy, reclusive creature. It spends most of its time in its burrow, avoiding the very sun that it is so famously associated with. It has no interest in humans. Its fangs are small, and its venom is this is the strange, quiet truth at the heart of this loud, frantic ritual. Its venom is remarkably weak. Let me say that again. The venom of the Lycos tarantula is, to a human, almost completely harmless. A bite from one, should you be unlucky enough to truly provoke it into defending itself, would result in some localized swelling, a bit of redness, and a pain that has been described by the few people who have actually experienced it as being roughly equivalent to a common bee sting. A bee sting. That's it. No lethargy. No uncontrollable urge to dance for 3 days straight. All of this, the communal panic, the expensive musicians, the grueling physical ordeal, the suspension of all social norms, for a glorified bee sting. It is perhaps one of the most bizarre and fascinating cases of a collective delusion in medical history. The poor Lycos tarantula, a modest and unassuming predator of crickets, was caught in a public relations nightmare that lasted for centuries. It became the most slandered invertebrate on the Italian peninsula. So if the spider is innocent, what on earth is happening to you? This is the question that historians, anthropologists, and medical experts have been arguing about for generations, in quiet university halls far removed from the sun-baked squares of Apulia. The debate is still very much alive. What was the real cause of Tarantism? There are several competing theories. One popular idea is that it was a form of mass hysteria, a psychological contagion that spread through a community living under immense social and economic pressure. Another theory points to ergotism, a type of poisoning caused by a fungus that can grow on rye and other grains. This fungus can cause convulsions, hallucinations, and other bizarre neurological symptoms. Perhaps a mild, chronic form of this poisoning was the original trigger, which then became codified into the tarantula ritual. But the most compelling and widely discussed theory is that Tarantism was not a disease at all. It was a socially sanctioned illness that provided a desperately needed outlet, particularly for women, in a society that offered them almost no other form of emotional or psychological release. It was a way to manifest all the unexpressed pain, frustration, and despair that came with a life of suffocating poverty and powerlessness. In your world, the truth of the spider's venom is irrelevant. The idea of the spider is what matters. The belief is the true poison. The community has absolute, unshakable faith in the spider's power is what makes it real. It gives your nameless suffering a name, a face, and most importantly, a prescribed cure. The spider is a convenient container for a whole host of miseries that are too convenient, complex, too dangerous, and too socially disruptive to be confronted directly. The phantom in your blood isn't spider venom. It's the venom of a life unlived. Somewhere in the endless spinning blur of the third day, something inside you shifts. The music is no longer just an external force, an attack you must endure. It has seeped through your skin, woven itself into your bones, and is now coming from within you. The dance is no longer something that is happening to you, it is something you are doing. The line between the poison and the cure, between the sickness and its expression, has completely dissolved, and in that dissolution you find a strange, terrifying clarity. The realization doesn't arrive as a thought, but as a deep, bodily understanding. This isn't about a spider. It was never about a spider. The burn in your muscles is not from venom. It is the physical manifestation of 1,000 days of silent, uncomplaining labor. The frantic stomping of your feet is not to crush a phantom arachnid. It is you trying to break through the hard, unyielding earth of your own life. The sweat pouring from your body is not the poison being expelled. It is the unshed tears of a girl who was never allowed to cry. This dance, this is a scream. A full-bodied, socially approved scream. It is a loophole in the contract of your existence. In your normal life, every emotion is a potential transgression. Anger is unladylike. Sadness is a burden. Joy, if too loud or too public, is shameless. You are a vessel for duty and silence, but here in the dust of the piazza, under the guise of being bitten, you have been given a permission slip. A prescription to feel everything, all at once, and to show it to the world. And so you do. Your dance becomes a language, a form of physical theater that is definitely not on the priest's list of approved Sunday activities. You begin to mime the actions of your daily life, but they are twisted, distorted by the raw emotion you pour into them. You pretend to sweep, but your motions are furious, as if you are trying to scour the very existence of dust from the earth. You need imaginary dough with a violence that speaks of deep, repressed frustration. You rock a phantom baby in your arms, but your expression is one of desperate, soul-crushing grief. Then the pantomime becomes even more daring. You might pick up the sticks from the ground and suddenly you are no longer a woman. You are a warrior. You fence and parry, fighting an invisible enemy with a fierce, focused grace you never knew you possessed. You are acting out a battle, and everyone watching understands you are not just fighting a spider. You are fighting fate, despair, the crushing weight of your world. Sometimes your movements become languid, sinuous, your hips swaying in a way that, in any other context, would be scandalous. It's a shocking, momentary reclaiming of a body that is not truly your own. A body that is currency in the marriage market. These are the moments that make the village men shuffle their feet and look away, and make the women watch with a sharp, knowing intensity. Are you aware of what you are doing? Are you consciously choosing these gestures as a form of protest? Or is it something deeper, a pure, subconscious outpouring of a lifetime of repression? This is a question that historians still puzzle over. Was Tarantism a conscious act of rebellion, a deliberate performance of dissent? Or was it a true, uncontrollable psychosomatic state, where the body simply enacted the vocabulary of suffering it had been given? Perhaps you don't even know the answer yourself. What you do know is that, for the first time, you are expressing the truth. the profound, suffocating boredom of your life, the quiet, simmering rage at its limitations, the deep, aching grief for the person you might have been if you had been born a man, or rich, or simply free. Each of these feelings was a poison, a true venom that you had been forced to swallow every single day. And now you are finally letting it out. The musicians play on, their faces sick with sweat. They are your collaborators, your enablers. They are providing the soundtrack for your jailbreak. And the villagers watch. Their faces a mixture of pity and fear, because on some level, they all understand. They know that this spider lives inside every one of them. You are just the one who was chosen, or who chose to let it dance. This isn't just a cure for a spider bite. This is a cure for a life of silence, and the only prescription is a scream that you shape with your entire body. While you are lost in your frenzied, therapeutic dance, another powerful institution is watching with a deeply conflicted interest: the church. From the cool, dark doorway of the village chapel, the local priest observes the proceedings, his face a tight mask of concern. This whole affair makes him uncomfortable. On the one hand, what is happening in the square looks dangerously pagan. The wild, ecstatic dancing, the hypnotic, repetitive music, the trance-like state you are in, it all feels like a relic from a much older time. It has the distinct flavor of the Dionysian rites of the ancient Greeks, rituals of music and wine and ecstatic release that the church had spent centuries trying to stamp out and replace with solemn prayer and orderly worship. Your frantic spinning looks a lot more like a Maenad's revelry than a good Christian girl's proper behavior. The use of colorful ribbons as a diagnostic tool. The belief in nature spirits in the form of musically inclined spiders. This is folk magic, plain and simple, a stubborn, unchristian superstition that refuses to die. The priest's training in the seminary taught him to be suspicious of such things, to see the devil's hand in any ritual that wasn't explicitly sanctioned by the church. Is this a healing? Or is it a form of demonic possession, with the musicians accidentally inviting the evil one in with their heathenish fiddling? But on the other hand, he cannot simply condemn it. Tarantism is too deeply woven into the fabric of the local culture. To declare it a sin would be to alienate his entire flock. Your family, after all, are devout parishioners. They are not worshipping a spider. They are trying to save their daughter from what they believe is a real, physical affliction. The whole village believes in it. And the priest, for all his formal theology, is a man of the people. So the church, in a masterful act of spiritual compromise, found a way to absorb Tarantism, to sanitize it, to bring it under the gentle, watchful wing of a Christian saint, and the saint they chose for the job was St. Paul. The connection is, to be honest, a little bit of a stretch, and historians still debate its exact origins. The most common theory links it to the biblical story in the Acts of the Apostles, where the Apostle Paul is shipwrecked on the island of Malta and is bitten by a viper. He simply shakes the creature off into a fire and suffers no ill effects, a clear miracle. Over time, in the fertile soil of southern Italian folklore, this story of a saint's immunity to a snake's venom was expanded to include the venom of spiders, scorpions, and all other creeping things. Thus, St. Paul became the official patron saint of the Tarantate. He was the celestial authority on venomous bites. This clever piece of religious rebranding allowed the church to have it both ways. The ritual could continue, but it was now framed not as a pagan rite, but as a prayer in motion. Your dance was not just a frantic explosion of emotion, it was a desperate, physical appeal to St. Paul for his miraculous intervention. This led to the creation of special chapels dedicated to St. Paul in towns like Golotina, which became a center for the cult. Many healing rituals, like yours, would culminate in a pilgrimage to one of these chapels. After days of dancing in the village square, the exhausted Tarant, Alpha and her family would travel to the chapel to offer their final prayers of thanks, leaving behind a small wax effigy of a spider as a token of their successful cure. So the priest watches you, his internal conflict mirrored in his stern expression. He may not like the chaotic, messy, and frankly unchristian look of your dance, but he can reassure himself that it is all happening under the distant, supervising gaze of St. Paul. He can see it not as a triumph of folk belief over Christian doctrine, but as an example of his flock's simple, if unorthodox faith. The The Church, in its ancient wisdom, knows that it is sometimes better to opt a river than to try and dam it. It allows the wild, ancient waters of this ritual to flow, but it digs a new channel for them, one that leads eventually and inevitably right back to the chapel door. As you continue your relentless dance, a new figure appears at the edge of the square. He is clearly not from the village. His clothes are different, darker, heavier, and cut in the style of the city. He carries a leather satchel and watches the scene not with the rapt, emotional involvement of the villagers, but with a detached, analytical curiosity. He is a physician, a man of learning, perhaps traveling from the university in Naples or Salerno, who has heard tales of this strange rural malady and has come to see it for himself. He does not intervene. He simply stands and observes, occasionally taking out a small, leather-bound notebook and a piece of charcoal to jot down his thoughts. To him, you are not a soul in torment or a girl fighting a spider demon. You are a medical case study, a fascinating, if baffling, collection of symptoms that must be observed, classified, and somehow fitted into the rigid framework of Renaissance medical theory. His world is one of logic and texts, not of hypnotic music and colorful ribbons. His understanding of the human body is based on the ancient Greek theory of the four humours, a doctrine that has dominated Western medicine for over 1,000 years. According to this theory, the body is composed of four essential fluids: blood sanguine, phlegm phlegmatic, yellow bile choleric, and black bile melancholic. A healthy person has these four humours in perfect balance. Sickness is the result of an imbalance, an excess or a deficiency of one of these fluids. So as he watches you, he is not seeing a dance. He is seeing a series of symptoms that he must translate into the language of the humours. Your initial state, the profound lethargy sadness, is an obvious one. That is a classic case of an excess of black bile, the cold, dry humour that produces the state of melancholia. This part is easy textbook even, but the cure this is where his theories begin to crumble. The frantic, sweaty, manic dance you are performing. This looks much more like a choleric state, an excess of hot, dry yellow bile, which is associated with anger and frenzy. How can a melancholic condition be cured by inducing a choleric one? It makes no sense. It's like trying to cure a chill by setting the patient on fire. He watches the musicians. He sees their power, the undeniable effect their playing has on you. He might try to explain it rationally. Perhaps the rapid vibrations of the music literally shake up the thick, stagnant black bile in your system, thinning it out and allowing it to be expelled through the sweat. He might write this down in his notebook, a tentative hypothesis that attempts to bridge the gap between what he sees and what his books tell him is possible. He is particularly interested in the details, the little oddities of the ritual. The ribbons, for instance. He scoffs at the folk belief that spiders have favorite colors, but he might theorize that the sight of a certain color, red for example, excites the blood, a sanguine humor, which in turn helps to combat the coldness of the black bile. He is desperately trying to fit the square peg of what he is witnessing into the round hole of his medical education. This skeptical physician is a recurring figure in the historical accounts of Tarantism. From the 15th century onwards, learned men tried to study and explain the phenomenon. Their writings are a fascinating mix of scientific observation, cultural prejudice, and sheer bewilderment. They were men caught between two worlds: the emerging world of rational, scientific inquiry and the deeply ingrained world of folk belief and magical thinking. One of the great academic debates that still lingers is whether the physicians of the time truly believed in Tarantism as a real, spider-induced illness, or if they were merely documenting a curious folk practice. The answer seems to be that they were divided. Some, like the famous Giorgio Baglivi, seemed convinced of its physical reality, even while struggling to explain it. Others were more skeptical, suggesting it was an imaginary illness, a disease of the mind, particularly of the weakened, impressionable female mind. The physician in your square is a man on the front line of this intellectual battle. He jots down his notes, a careful record of your movements, your reactions, the music's tempo. He is trying to trap this wild, chaotic, spiritual event in the net of rational words. But the longer he watches, the more he realizes that his constructed understanding of the human body are completely inadequate to explain the raw, undeniable power of what is happening in front of him. You are a living, breathing, dancing refutation of his entire education. And as he closes his notebook, a flicker of doubt, a tiny crack in the foundation of his certainty, begins to form. While the priest worries about your soul and the physician puzzles over your humors, your father is preoccupied with a much more earthly concern, the ever-dwindling pile of coins in the small leather pouch hidden in his waistband. The music that is your medicine, the frantic, life-saving rhythm that fills the square, is not free. It is a service, and the bill is running. The musicians are professionals. They are not playing out of the goodness of their hearts. This is their livelihood. They have families to feed, instruments to maintain. And the economics of the cure are brutal and straightforward. They are paid by the hour. Every relentless thump of the tambourine, every sawing phrase of the fiddle, is another tick of a very expensive clock. Your father stands at the edge of the circle of onlookers, his face a mask of anxiety. He tries to project an air of calm control, but his eyes keep darting towards the musicians, and then towards you. He is performing a painful calculation in his head. How many more hours? How many more hours? Each time you collapse and hold back to your feet, a part of him is relieved. The cure is continuing, while another part sinks with the thought of the cost. This was the harsh reality of Tarantism for the vast majority of its sufferers, who were poor agricultural laborers. The cure was ruinously expensive. Hiring a team of specialized musicians for a multi-day, round-the-clock performance was the early modern equivalent of paying for major surgery without insurance. It was a catastrophic financial event for a family that lived season to season, a family whose entire wealth might consist of a few goats, a small plot of land, and the tools on their backs. Where does the money come from? Often, it meant going into debt. Your father might have to approach the local landowner, the padronee, and ask for an advance, to be paid back with months of back-breaking labor in his olive groves. This debt could hang over the family for years, a long shadow cast by your brief, frantic dance. Or it might mean selling a vital asset. The family's only donkey, essential for carrying goods to market. A piece of your mother's dowry, a pair of treasured silver earrings that were meant to be passed down to you. Each hour of music costs a piece of the family's future. This economic dimension adds another layer of complexity to the phenomenon. Some cynical modern historians have suggested that the musicians themselves had a vested interest in perpetuating a belief in Tarantism. They were, after all, the sole purveyors of the only known cure. They held a monopoly on salvation. It's a controversial idea, and probably unfair to the musicians who likely believed as fervently in their healing powers as everyone else, but the financial incentive cannot be ignored. There's even a strange, almost theatrical element to the payment. At certain points, your family members might be expected to make a show of their gratitude and financial commitment. Your mother might approach the fiddler, her face streaked with tears, and press a small coin into his hand, begging him not to stop, to play faster, to save her daughter. This is not just a transaction, it's part of the performance, a public demonstration of the family's desperation and their willingness to sacrifice everything for your well-being. The high cost of the cure also created a strange and tragic social dynamic. What about the families who were too poor to even consider hiring the musicians? Historical records are quieter on this, but it's likely that their afflicted daughters simply wasted away. Or they might have had to rely on a less effective, cut-rate version of the cure, perhaps a single musician with just a tambourine, or even just the rhythmic clapping and singing of neighbors. Your family's ability to hire the full band is, in a grim way, a status symbol. It shows the village that you are honorable people who will spare no expense to uphold your duty and save your own. So as you dance, lost in your world of pain and release, another, parallel drama is unfolding. A drama of economics and sacrifice. The rhythm that is saving your spirit is simultaneously jeopardizing your family's material survival. It is a desperate, high-stakes gamble. Your father watches you spin, and with every rotation, he sees the ghost of the goat he will have to sell, the shadow of the debt he will have to repay. The price of your sanity is being paid in sweat and in cold, hard, desperately needed cash. The sun has risen and set so many times that the days have blurred into a single, continuous ordeal of motion and sound. You are deep in the trance now, a creature of pure instinct. And in this altered state, your mind begins to wander, not in thought, but in a kind of waking dream. You hear snatches of conversations from the edge of the crowd, whispers that filter through the constant thrum of the music, and these whispers tell you something strange. They are talking about the Tarantella from the next valley over, the one whose sickness started just a week before yours. And her sickness, you learn, was different. The whispers say her spider was not a red spider, a creature that supposedly lived near the river. Its bite didn't fill her with rage, but with a profound and weeping sadness. Her dance was not furious and stomping, it was slow and undulating, like a drowning person caught in a current. She didn't crave the color red, she was drawn to the color blue and constantly begged for water, not just to drink, but to pour over her head, to immerse her hands in. The music they played for her was different too. It was still the pizzica, but it was a slower, more melancholic variation, the fiddle's melody sounding more like a lament than a frantic screech. This is a fascinatedly specific detail. The cure was not a one-size-fits-all prescription. The musicians had a whole repertoire of different pizziche, different sonic keys for the different kinds of venomous personalities they might encounter. This regional variation is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the psychological and cultural nature of Tarantism. If it were a purely biological phenomenon caused by a single species of spider, the symptoms and the necessary cure should have been broadly consistent. But they weren't. The rules of the affliction changed from one valley to the next. In one area, the spider might be believed to impart a fit of uncontrollable laughter. In another, a state of aggressive immodesty. The details of the mythology, the specific behaviors of the Tarantella, and the musical nuances of the cure were all hyper-local, a kind of cultural dialect. It was a shared language of suffering, but a language that had distinct regional accents. Anthropologists who have studied similar culture-bound syndromes around the world see this as a classic feature. The afflicted person subconsciously performs the version of the illness that their specific community expects. You had heard stories of the red spider your whole life, so when your crisis came, your subconscious mind provided the appropriate symptoms. The girl in the next valley grew up with tales of the water spider, so her affliction manifested in a way that fit her local narrative. You are both speaking the same grammatical language of Tarantism, but you are using different vocabulary. This also highlights the incredible skill and cultural knowledge of the musicians. They weren't just playing tunes. They were acting as diagnosticians. When they first arrived, they would often play a kind of sampler platter of different pizziche, fast, slow, aggressive, melancholic, until they saw which one produced a reaction in the patient. The moment you twist your foot, they knew, oh, this one is a classic pizzica Tarantella case. Mournful tune would have been the key. They were, in a very real sense, musical detectives, searching for the precise sonic frequency that would unlock the patient's specific psychosomatic prison. The debate among scholars on this point is subtle but important. Did these variations arise spontaneously in different isolated communities, or was there a kind of cross-pollination, where traveling musicians or merchants would carry tales of a new type of spider from one town to another, which would then be incorporated into the local belief system? As you dance, these whispered fragments about the girl in the next valley don't register as academic data points. They seep into your trance as a series of dreamlike images, a girl weeping by a river, a slower, sadder song. It reinforces the strange, unshakable logic of your world. Of course there are different spiders. Of course they require different dances. The universe, which had shrunk to the size of your dusty circle, expands just enough to admit that there are other circles, other dances, other songs. Your suffering is unique, your spider is your own, but you are part of a larger, secret family of the afflicted, each dancing to the tune of a slightly different poison. Something gives. Not in your mind, which has long since surrendered to the trance, but deep within your body. It's a subtle, internal signal, a quiet snap of a thread that has been stretched to its absolute breaking point. After what feels like a lifetime of relentless motion, your body has finally reached the bottom of its well. There is simply nothing left to give. The dance changes. The frantic, aggressive stomping falters. The wild spinning slows to a weary, stumbling shuffle. Your movements are no longer a fight, but a slow, agonizing surrender. You are a candle that has burned down to its base, the flame now just a tiny, flickering thing, about to be extinguished by the slightest breeze. The musicians, ever attuned to your state, notice the shift immediately. This is the moment they have been playing for. This is the beginning of the end. Their music changes too. The frantic, driving rhythm of the pizzica softens, becoming less of a command and more of a question. The fiddle's melody descends, becoming a mournful, falling line of notes. They are accompanying your final, slow-motion collapse. You raise your arms, not in a gesture of wild abandon, but with the slowness of someone lifting an immense weight. Your eyes, for the first time in days, seem to focus on something. Not on the crowd, not on the sky, but on an invisible point in the dust before you. In your mind, the spider is there. It is dying, the poison has been exhausted, and the creature that was its source is now in its death throes. You begin to act out this final, silent drama. Your dance becomes a pantomime of a great, final battle. You stagger forward, your hands held out like claws, and then you recoil, as if struck by your foe. This is a very specific and often reported part of the rituals, and the patient symbolically kills the spider. Sometimes they would even demand a prop, gesturing frantically for a scarf to use as a net or a stick to use as a sword. You need no prop. Your bare hands and feet are your weapons. You circle the invisible spot in the dust, your body a study in exhausted agony. Then, with a final guttural cry that seems to tear its way out of your throat, you lunge forward. You lunge forward. You fall to your knees and begin to beat the ground with your fists. Stomp, 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 stomp. Weaker now, but with a terrible finality, you are crushing the life out of your tormentor. You are killing the creature that has held you captive. The musicians watch this final act, their instruments ready. They are waiting for your signal. You deliver the final, crushing blow, a stomp with the heel of your foot. You hold the pose for a moment, a grim, dusty statue of victory. Then you raise your head to the sky and let your body go completely limp. That is the signal. The fiddler draws his bow across the strings one last time, a long, screeching, discordant sound that hangs in the air like a question. The accordionist plays a final crashing chord, and the tambourine player strikes his instrument with all his might, a single, explosive thump, and then lets it fall silent. The shock of the silence is more profound than the noise that preceded it. It is a physical thing, a sudden gaping void in the world. For days your entire existence has been defined by that relentless rhythm. Now it is gone, and with it, the force that was holding you up, the sonic scaffolding of your ordeal, has vanished. You collapse. It is not a gentle slide to the ground. It is a complete and total failure of your physical form, as if your strings had been cut. You fall into a heap in the dust, a tangle of limbs and matted hair, and you do not move. You are a puppet dropped by its master. A collective sigh of relief and ripples through the crowd. This is the moment of catharsis, the sign that the venom has been expelled, the spider is broken. Your family rushes forward. They gently turn you over. Your face is pale and peaceful. Your eyes are closed. You are breathing, a deep, slow, rattling breath of pure and absolute exhaustion. Historians debate this final collapse endlessly. Was it the inevitable result of days of non-stop, sleep-deprived, dehydrated physical exertion, a simple physiological shutdown? Or was it, at least in part, a performative act, the final scene in a long and complex piece of social theater, the expected and necessary conclusion that signals to everyone that the cure is complete? The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in the middle. But for you, lying on the cool earth of the piazza, there is no debate. There is only stillness. A profound, merciful, and blessedly silent stillness. The battle is over. The last note is fallen. And you, finally, are at rest. You are carried home. Your body is a dead weight in your father's arms, your head lolling against his shoulder. The villagers part silently to let you pass, their faces filled with a tired, somber respect. The spectacle is over. You are no longer the Tarantella, the possessed dancer at the center of the world. You are just a girl again, a very, very tired girl. They lay you on your straw mattress in the small, dark room where it all began. The colorful ribbons are still hanging from the rafters, a silent, festive testament to the madness that just transpired. Your mother gently sponges the layers of grime from your face and limbs. She brings you a cup of broth, and this time, you are able to swallow a few sips. It tastes of salt and light. You fall into a sleep so deep it's like a temporary death. It is a dreamless, bottomless ocean of quiet. Your body, which has been pushed far beyond its normal limits, begins the slow, arduous work of repair. Your mind, which has been screaming for days, finally falls silent. When you wake, the world feels new. The light filtering through the small window seems sharper, the colors more vibrant. The simple texture of your woolen blanket under your fingertips is a miracle of sensation. You are weak, your muscles ache with a profound, bone-deep soreness, but the grey fog is gone. The oppressive weight of the nameless melancholy has lifted. You feel hollowed out, scoured clean, but you feel present. You are back inside your own skin. To your family and the village, your cure is a miracle. They triumph of faith, community, and the power of the physical. You have faced the spider and won. You have been brought back from the brink. There is a quiet, celebratory mood in your home. The musicians are paid their final, painfully large fee, and they depart, leaving a strange silence in their wake. Normalcy begins to seep back into the cracks of your life. But woven into this celebration is a quiet, unspoken understanding. A shadow of a caveat. The cure is not necessarily permanent. The spider has been defeated, yes. Its venom has been sweat out. Its spirit has been crushed in the dust. But the spider is a creature of the earth. This is the concept of the annual poison. It was a common belief that once you had been bitten, you were susceptible for life. The affliction was not eradicated, merely sent into remission. And what could awaken it again? The heat. Specifically, the anniversary of the bite. There was a widespread belief that every year, around the same time that you were first bitten, the sun's heat could reactivate the dormant venom, and the symptoms would return. This created a cycle of sickness and cure for many Tarantate. Each summer, as the heat began to build, they would feel the old symptoms returning. The lethargy, the sadness, the feeling of being disconnected from the world. And the whole ritual would have to be repeated. The musicians would be summoned, the dance would commence, the venom would be expelled, and they would be well again until the following year. This notion of an annual, recurring affliction is a fascinating one for historians and psychologists. Was it a genuine, recurring psychosomatic event, a kind of anniversary reaction, where the body remembers and reenacts its trauma? Or was it a more conscious or semi-conscious choice? Did the annual dance become a necessary release valve, a yearly appointment with sanctioned chaos that was required to maintain one's sanity for the other 11.5 months of silent obedience? Scholars still debate whether this cyclical nature was the norm or the exception. Some accounts describe women who were cured once and for all, but many others tell of these annual tarantulas, women who were famous in their communities for their yearly dance. It became a part of their identity. They were the woman who danced the spider every June. You don't know any of this yet. For now, you are simply enjoying the quiet, the stillness, the feeling of being clean and sane in your own bed. You are cured, but as you drift off to sleep again, a small, unsettling thought might flicker at the edge of your mind. A memory of the sun on your skin, the thrum of the music in your bones, the quiet understanding that the spider, though dead, may not be truly gone. It may just be sleeping, waiting for the heat of next summer to call it back for another dance. Let's allow the camera of our story to pull back now, to drift slowly upwards from your small village, leaving you to your fragile, hard-won peace. We float up over the sun-baked landscape of Apulia, over the silvery olive groves and the whitewashed towns. And as we rise, we are also drifting forward, not through space, but through time. The years pass. Then the decades. The 16th century, the era of your ordeal, bleeds into the 17th. Your personal story becomes a part of the region's folklore, a tale told by a grandmother to her wide-eyed grandchildren. But the ritual itself continues, largely unchanged. The summers still bring the heat, the despair, and the frantic, healing dance of the pizzica. But as the 17th century gives way to the 18th, a new and powerful idea begins to sweep across Europe, an idea that will eventually prove more deadly to the spider than any dancer's stomp. It is called the Enlightenment. It's an age of reason, of science, of skepticism. It is a time when old beliefs, ancient superstitions, and unquestioned traditions are held up to the cold, harsh light of rational inquiry. And in this new light, the story of a dancing sickness caused by a spite begins to look, well, a little bit silly. The new generation of physicians, philosophers, and scientists are no longer willing to just accept the phenomenon as a strange, unexplainable fact of nature. They are armed with new tools, microscopes, a better understanding of chemistry, a growing knowledge of the nervous system. They are men who believe that every effect must have a rational, observable material cause, and a spider's bite causing a multi-day dancing fit does not fit this new, orderly worldview. The official investigations begin. The Royal Society of Naples, a bastion of this new scientific thinking, sends learned men to the rural south to study Tarantism. They are not like the lone, bewildered physician who watched your dance. They come with a mission to debunk it. They perform experiments that would have been unthinkable a century earlier. They capture Lycos tarantulas and force them to bite animals, carefully observing the results. The animals show minor irritation, but no desire to dance. More daringly, they persuade healthy peasant volunteers, for a small fee of course, to be bitten. The results are the same as small, localized swelling, and nothing more. The scientific method delivers its cold, hard verdict: the spider is innocent. The venom is a myth. These findings are published in learned journals and discussed in the salons of Naples and Rome. The official, educated opinion begins to shift. Tarantism is reclassified. It is no longer a physical disease. It is a mental one. A form of hysteria, a madness of the imagination, particularly prevalent among the uneducated, superstitious, and emotionally volatile women of the countryside. The cure is no longer seen as a miracle of folk medicine, but as a part of the delusion itself. This new skepticism begins to trickle down from the educated elite to the general population, but it is a slow and uneven process. In the cities, Tarantism becomes a joke, a symbol of rustic backwardness. But in the small, isolated villages where the old fears and the old pressures still hold sway, the belief persists. The musicians are still hired, the dances still happen, but now they are tinged with a new element: shame. Communal healing ritual starts to be seen as a sign of ignorance, something to be hidden from the condescending eyes of outsiders. This period marks a crucial turning point in the history of medicine and belief. The debate about Tarantism became a proxy war between two entirely different ways of understanding the world. On one side was the ancient holistic view, where the mind, body, spirit, and community were all interconnected. On the other was the new, mechanistic view of the body as a machine, a collection of parts that could be understood, measured, and fixed. There is a quiet, academic debate that continues to this day. In debunking the superstition, did this new age of reason also dismiss the very real suffering that the ritual was designed to address? Did they cure the myth but ignore the pain? The world is changing. The age of the spider is slowly, inevitably, coming to an end. The phantom in the blood is being exorcised not by music, but by doubt, and the wild, chaotic dance that saved you is beginning to look like a relic from a forgotten, less rational time. As the cool light of reason and scientific skepticism continues to shine brighter into the 18th and 19th centuries, the wild, desperate, and often terrifying ritual of Tarantism begins to fade. It doesn't vanish overnight in a puff of logic. Instead, it undergoes a slow, fascinating transformation. The process is a gradual one. As the belief in the spider's venom wanes, the full-blown, multi-day healing ritual becomes rarer and rarer. It is driven indoors, away from the public square and the judgmental eyes of visiting officials or clergymen influenced by Enlightenment thinking. It becomes a more private, family affair, a shadow of its former self. But the music survives. The frantic, hypnotic rhythms of the pizzica are too powerful, too deeply embedded in the cultural DNA of the region to simply disappear. The tunes that once exorcised demons are repurposed. They are stripped of their dangerous, magical associations and given a new, much safer job. They become folk music. This is the great sanitization of the Tarantella. The wild, dangerous, solo dance of the female Tarantella into a cheerful, energetic, and most importantly, respectable couples dance. The Tarantella that you might see performed today at an Italian folk festival or a wedding is the great-great-great-grandchild of the desperate, life or death ritual you performed in the dust. You can see the ghost of the original ritual in the modern dance if you know where to look. The fast accelerating tempo is still there, a memory of the musicians trying to drive the dancer to a state of ecstatic collapse. The constant, almost dizzying spinning is a relic of the Tarantator's trance-like state. The use of the tambourine, with its driving, hypnotic beat, is a direct link to the healing bands. Some versions of the dance even feature a woman playfully fending off the advances of multiple male partners, a faint sanitized deco of the Tarantella commanding the attention of the entire village, but the meaning has been completely inverted. The original dance was a solitary ordeal, a public display of a woman's private torment. The new Tarantella is a social celebration, a performance of communal joy and courtship. The original was a cure for a sickness of the soul. The new version is a cure for boredom at a party. The raw, terrifying scream of the ritual has been harmonized and arranged into a polite and entertaining folk song. This process of taming is a common one in cultural history. Practices that are deemed too wild, too pagan, or too socially disruptive are often not eradicated, but absorbed and repackaged in a more palatable form. The wild god Pan with his pipes and his chaotic energy is slowly transformed into the gentle, pastoral image of a shepherd playing a flute. The same thing happened to your dance. By the early 20th century, the original belief in Tarantism as a real medical condition was all but extinct. It survived only in the memories of the very old, a bizarre tale from a bygone era. An Italian doctor writing in the 1920s might mention it in a footnote as a curious example of historical mass hysteria. The spider was finally completely exonerated. The debate among historians is about what was lost in this transition. In taming the dance, did the culture also tame the scream? The ritual, for all its strangeness and brutality, provided a powerful, if temporary, release for a kind of suffering that didn't just disappear with the advent of scientific skepticism. The poverty, the social repression, the silent despair of women in a patriarchal society, these things did not vanish. The venom was still there, but the one, socially sanctioned antidote, the healing power of the dance, had been transformed into a charming piece of cultural heritage, a tourist-friendly performance with colorful costumes and smiling dancers. The operating theater had been turned into a postcard. And so we leave the cheerful folk dancers at their festival, their bright ribbons fluttering in the breeze, a pale and happy echo of the desperate ritual that came before. We let our gaze drift back one last time, back through the centuries, past the age of doubt and the skeptical physicians, all the way back to you. You are lying in your straw bed, in the quiet aftermath of your ordeal, feeling the fragile return of your own self. The spider is dead, the poison is gone. What was it really that possessed you? Was it the venom of a creature that modern science has declared innocent? Was it a fungus on the grain, a trick of the nerves, a fever of the mind? Or was it something else, something less tangible but far more potent? Perhaps the true poison was a story told so often and with such conviction that it became a physical reality. A narrative that lived in the blood of the community. A story about a spider, yes, but also a story about the mysterious, uncontrollable nature of sadness, the fragility of the human mind, and the existence of a cure that was as wild and desperate as the sickness itself. This is the power of a shared belief. It can build cathedrals, and it can create phantom illnesses. It can forge nations, and it can convince a young woman that the only way to heal her soul is to dance herself to the brink of death. You weren't just a victim of a spider, you were a vessel for a powerful idea. You were the living embodiment of a metaphor. The phantom in the blood wasn't arachnid venom. It was the collective anxiety of your community, the unexpressed grief of your ancestors, the crushing weight of a social order that had no room for the complexities of a woman's inner life. This phantom needed a host, a way to become visible, a way to be acknowledged and dealt with. And the story of the tarantula provided the perfect script. You didn't invent your sickness, you inherited it. You stepped into a role that had been waiting for you, a role that your culture knew how to recognize, how to witness, and how to heal. The debate, of course, continues in the quiet, dust-filled halls of academia. Was Tarantism a disease or a therapy? Was it an oppression or a liberation? The answer is a frustrating and deeply human yes. It was both. It was a prison of belief that paradoxically offered a key to a temporary and ecstatic freedom. It was a sickness that contained its own cure. As you lie there feeling the simple, profound pleasure of a body at rest, you are not thinking about any of this. You are not pondering the complex interplay of sociology, psychology, and folk medicine. You only know that you were lost, and now you are found. You were silent, and then you were given a voice made not of words, but of motion. You were heavy with a sorrow that had no name, and you were made to dance until you were light again. The memory of the music will stay with you forever. The insistent, hypnotic rhythm of the pizzica. Even years from now, an old woman sitting in the shade, you might hear a distant tambourine from a wedding celebration, and for a fleeting moment, you will feel a familiar twitch in your foot. A ghost of a memory. A phantom in the blood, reminding you of the time the spider came to visit. And you danced with it in the sun until only one of you was left standing. And so the frantic music finally fades not into silence, but into a deep and profound quiet. The dust of the village square has settled, and the last echo of the tambourine is dissolved into the warm night air. You can feel that stillness now, spreading through you like a cool and gentle wave. There is no need to dance anymore. No need to move at all. You can simply be at rest, feeling the gentle support of the ground beneath you, as if you are floating on a calm, dark sea. The story is over, but the feeling of release remains. A sense of a great weight having been lifted, a tension that has finally been let go. You can allow your own body to feel that release now, letting your jaw relax, letting go of any letting go of any little battles you might have been fighting to a deep and healing peace. Imagine yourself in that quiet, whitewashed village after the music has stopped. The moon is rising, casting a soft, silvery light on the empty square. The air smells of cool stone and night blooming flowers. And all you can hear is the gentle, rhythmic sound of your own breath in and out. A simple, quiet rhythm of rest. A rhythm of rest. A rhythm of rest. The rhythm of rest. There is only this deep, gentle peace, a peace that you have earned, a peace that is yours to keep. As you drift deeper and deeper now into the soft and waiting darkness of your own restful sleep. The final word has been whispered. If your mind is still gently stirring, you're welcome to drift into another of my stories. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.